Hello, welcome back to Backstage Pass with Phoenix. I'm so excited for today. I met David Howard just a little bit ago, and if you don't know who that is, well, you definitely will when I tell you what he wrote. He's written quite a few things, but Galaxy Quest is probably one thing that you might know him for. Galaxy Quest, yes, the '90s hit, 90% on Rotten Tomatoes, which is a great feat, loved
Hmm.
by a lot of people. It gained a great fan base, and everybody, definitely Star Trekkies loved it, but also even if you didn't know anything about Star Trek, you can also love it and it's satire. And one of the things that it's acclaimed for is its writing. And in watching it, I just think it's very well written and I appreciate really good writing. So I wanted to get David on to tell us the behind the scenes of Galaxy Quest of writing, to not only give us the details of behind the scenes, but of course, as you know, give us some how-tos for any of you aspiring and budding writers that want to break into the entertainment industry. So thank you so much, David, for spending some time with us today.
My pleasure. Glad to be here.
Yeah, okay, so let's just dive right in. I would love to hear, you're living in LA. You said that you kind of gave me a little teaser that you went there to try to break into the industry. So tell us your journey to where you are now.
Okay. Um, this is kind of a long story, but I'll try to make it as short as I can. So my story is what people want to have happen when they come to LA that almost never does. This is the fairy tale story, uh, which is that you move to LA, you write a script, and somebody buys it and turns it into a movie. That never happens, almost never happens. And the producer that I gave my script to, my spec script to, she came back to me later and after it would happen, and she said, David, you need to realize this never happens. This is one in 15,000.
Wow.
So, with that as a preface, let me dive in. So okay, I had been living in LA about 10 years when I wrote this script. I had finished up a grad degree in playwriting at the University of Utah, and I moved down to LA to break into the business. And I'd written all kinds of things. I'd written TV pilots and features and short plays and long plays. And pretty much I tried to pursue any avenue I could to get my work seen, to get something done. And I wouldn't, okay, first, if this is a how-to show, the first thing I would suggest is don't do that. What you should do is decide what you want to be and do that. Just if you want to be a screenwriter, write screenplays and just, you know, stick that because every time you go to something else, you're going in a new area and you're having to meet new people and establish yourself in another direction. Um, so anyway, I was writing a play about Africa and I didn't have any money to go to Africa because I had a day job. I was a word processor and for a thrifty drugstores and which was great because a lot of times they would have me sitting around waiting for things to word process, and so I had my free time, and so I would bring my diskettes and use their computer and work on my scripts, and they didn't care because they didn't have anything for me to do anyway. So I did a lot of my writing during this day job. There's another little thing, for people who are trying to work in LA, there are jobs that you can get that really don't expect very much of you. So you have time. And, I was stuck there sitting at the desk the whole time. So what was I going to do? I wrote. It was either that or play solitaire. So, that helped me to stay motivated and be productive. But anyway, I was writing this play about Africa and I couldn't go to Africa because I didn't have any money. So I went to an IMAX film down at USC, and it was called The Circle of Life, and it was about Africa. But in the previews beforehand, in the trailer, there was a trailer for a film called Americans in Space, and it started with uh, this 70 millimeter image of the Earth, spinning in orbit. And I heard this voice say Americans in space. And you know how you play that game, you hear a voice in a commercial or something, and you go, I know who that is. Who is that? And I sat there trying to, decide identify who it was. And finally I realized, oh, it's Leonard Nimoy. And then I thought, just, oh, of course, no one knows who that is unless they're, a geek like me who listens for that sort of thing. But and then I just started thinking, oh, this is this, of course, these marketing guys are sitting around a table going, we've got Americans in space. Who can we get to do the voiceover? And they go down the list. Oh, we can't afford William Shatner, Patrick Stewart's in London. Oh, wow, Leonard Nimoy, I can get to him. And then I just thought how typecast and trapped these guys are in these roles, and that's where I started. It wasn't even sci-fi. It was a drama about this actor who wanted to play Shakespeare, but no one would take him seriously. So I started writing the scenes and that, and then I got I had him go to a convention, and I thought, oh, what if there were real aliens? In the that are there among everyone in the costumes. I thought, oh, this is now I've got a high concept comedy. This isn't a little dramatic story of a little one person play. This is something much bigger, much more commercial. So that's where it started.
Wow. I love hearing the process of how that developed. So you weren't even like, I would assume that it was like, I love Star Trek. I'm going to do a spoof off of this or something, but it just kind of
No, no,
comes
it
from
really started from a much more character-centered place. If
wow.
I thought that was interesting. Now, I should say that I had couple of things. First of all, I have a sister who's 7 years older than I am, and she was like a dyed-in-the-wool Trekkie. She had the costume, and she just loved that back, when the original series was out. We grew up watching it, and then when it got into syndication, we watched it while dinner was on all the time. I was very conversant with that. And then one of the things that I tried to do is when I moved here, um, one of the shows that would take unsolicited scripts was Star Trek because that was just their philosophy that they would accept things from you didn't have to be represented to submit episodes. So a friend of mine and I wrote a an episode for the next generation and tried to get that to sell, but it never happened. But so
Something.
we did. So I was conversant with the world, and the phenomenon when I dove in. So.
Wow. So it does, if I'm right, what did it start kind of with Alan Rickman's character and then ended up being kind of more about Tim Allen's character?
Well, what happened? Yeah, well, okay. So in my draft was called Captain Starshine, and it was about the captain. But in my draft, uh, the Spock guy, the second in command, he's so bitter about how he's been treated on the show that he has like written all these cheesy sci-fi novels, and with the money he's gotten from that, he's like hooked up with these scientists and opened up this rift into another dimension, and he's gone to this other place and kind of taken over this planet, and so he's the antagonist in it.
Oh, okay.
So, and then when they come back to get my main character, it's because he's the one man whom this guy fears. So that's
Ah, okay.
so
So did you start with writing scripts or did you study something else or did you
I
start
started writing plays.
Oh, that's right.
I was really interested in being an actor, and I got into a grad program, and I got halfway through that and went, I think I'm really much more interested and emotionally suited for writing rather than I always liked acting, but the idea of pursuing it as a business that's just so grueling and
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
harsh that I
yeah.
just didn't want to have to put myself out like that all the time.
Well, I'm
So.
sure writing is not a ton easier, but
Well, the thing is, you get your rejections in the privacy of your home. You know?
that's true. And
Yeah.
they're not judging what you look like.
Exactly. Exactly.
It's a different kind of harsh criticism.
Yes, it is. That's much easier to take. So,
Yeah. Okay. Amazing. So, did you have other? I know you're saying that you're writing a play about Africa. Did you have other successful things, or was Quest kind of like your
well,
first thing and
no,
your big thing?
yeah, that's what happened. I mean, I'd written all kinds of things. I'd written, TV pilots and plays I'd love a bunch of screenplays that were just kind of and still are, sitting in my file cabinet. But um, what happened is I wrote this script. I had a couple of scripts actually, and I went to dinner with a friend who she and her husband we were friends of my wife and me, and we um, we went out, we were at dinner, and she'd worked for a company called Beacon Pictures. And at Beacon, she her job was to be the liaison with the agency. So whenever um, agents wanted to get their scripts to producing companies, she was like there at the door. So they had to be nice to her. So she had all these relationships with agents of, all these major agencies. And she had quit, and she wanted to have a baby, and they had a little baby boy. And so um, we were at dinner, and her name's Sona Gregoris, and I said, Sona, I have these scripts. I did what every writer should do, which is you network with the people that are around you. And I said, Sona, I have these scripts, and I was wondering if you wouldn't mind taking a look at them, and maybe you could pass them on to an agent, or so, maybe there's someone you could give them to. And she said, yeah, sure, I'd be happy to. So she read them, and she liked both of them, and she said, David, I think someone would make these. Would you mind if I tried shopping them around as a producer? And I went, sure. I mean, I'd never had an agent. I'd never taken a meeting. I was just, I mean, I've been toiling away in obscurity for 10 years.
You did something right.
I did do something right. Yeah. And
Like,
if you keep trying, you're going to do it with something right occasionally. So she took it, and she went back to the woman who had taken her role,
mhm,
still had these relationships with these agents, and they partnered, and they ended up taking it, and they got it to DreamWorks, and that's it.
amazing.
Just and it came at the right time where they needed a comedy, a family comedy, and something had fallen out, and it came through the door at the absolute right time, and
Yes.
that's how it happened.
That's amazing. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Okay,
But don't plan if you're moving to LA, don't plan on that happening, because you
yeah,
know.
just take this as a sweet story that might never ever come
Yeah,
to you,
yeah,
but
yeah.
have hope.
If nothing
That's
else, people break in, then I did
yeah.
manage to do that. So
Yeah, I think that is hopeful for people though. And I want to continue to dig into this. We're going to take a quick break, but we'll be back with more behind the scenes of Galaxy Quest and screenwriting when we come back here on Backstage Pass with Phoenix. Have you ever seen Galaxy Quest? It is for all ages. And what I love about Galaxy Quest is the writing, it's the storyline. That's one of the um, main things that I look for in a movie. I know some people are very into music and like, the underscore or whatever. I love the acting and the storyline. I feel like those are the two main parts of the movie. And I think this has both of those great elements, and it's got a great following. And so we have the writer of it, David Howard, on with us right now. You've done such a good job with that. So talented. I wanted to know, so you kind of in the past segment told us about how it came to fruition, how you kind of wrote it, and it just kind of was a miracle. It just got picked up and then became a huge hit. What was your thought process? Like, take me back to the moment when first, I don't know if these were two different moments, I'm assuming they were, when you found out that it was going to get picked up by a motion picture studio, and also when you found out like there's this star-studded cast with Tim Allen, Alan Rickman,
yeah.
Sigourney Weaver, like all these people.
Um, so yeah, so it's kind of I'm having a hard time finding ways to express it. It's just kind of life altering when that starts to happen, because so often you write and you write and you write, and you're always going, oh, if this happens, when this happens, hoping that someone's going to actually, do your work. And when I remember the first time I got I had this agent from CAA who said, "Okay, you're going to have meetings with these people, and so they sent me to talk to a couple of actually quite a few production entities, and I really my regret is that I wish I would have known better how to play that hand, because I was just flying so blind. When I took the first meeting with Mark Johnson's company. And Mark Johnson was the eventual producer. He had a deal with DreamWorks, and I was getting ready to go to this meeting. They said, "Okay, you're going to go to this meeting," and they want to do it. And I was thinking, going, I don't even know what I should wear. So I was just like trying to decide how to go and how to play this and not come off like a total rube. But I went in, I just kind of tried to be myself, and they were very friendly, and they said, really, we just want to make sure that we want to do business with you. That you're not some, crazy writer who doesn't,
Yeah.
we want to make sure you're someone that we can work with, and so that's where it really started. So it's very intimidating and very exciting at the same time, because usually, like I said, it doesn't happen this way. Usually, you send a script in, and it's a writing sample, and you end up going around pitching ideas, and so you have a rapport and you develop a relationship with these companies before you get thrown into the deep end like this. So that was very different for me. Um so it's very exciting.
So
uh,
well, did you, sorry, I didn't want to cut you off.
oh, I was just going to say, regarding the casting, that was, see, one another thing you should know is as a writer, you they don't keep you in the loop much more than they
Right.
need to. You never know. It was like, oh, they're going into this person, they're going to that person. Oh, this person passed. Oh, so it went through a number because when I wrote it, they asked me, they said, who do you have in mind for this? And I said, I thought, and that I was thinking Kevin Kline, because I thought he would have been, really, yeah, really great in the role.
Mhm.
And initially they went out to Kevin Kline, and he apparently, from what I understand, he passed because I think he just finished Wild Wild West. He lived back east, and he didn't want to come back out for a while, so he
He
didn't do
missed
it.
out.
Yeah, he did. He did that. But then, there were two directors. Ivan Reitman was involved, and he was there, and then he quit. And he wanted to have Alec Baldwin do the role. And then they settled on Tim Allen. And I was, yeah, I agree with you about the casting of the film. It couldn't be better. I mean, it was just brilliant. It was just so smart. They picked Tim Allen because he had this huge, blue collar middle American following from his TV show from Home Improvement. And then they get Sigourney Weaver, who's just this iconic sci-fi babe with a whole Alien franchise. And then they get Alan Rickman, for the intelligentsia. It's just how they couldn't have picked a better cast for that. And they're all so wonderful in it. It's really great. So
Yeah, it's so dreamy when you see your work come to life on the screen, especially as a screenwriter. That's amazing. It's very cool. I guess with the how-to part of it, you said, you wish you would have known how to kind of do those little meetings better. And I think everyone does. There's nobody to teach you any of this stuff. Everything's just learn as you go,
it's really hard.
unfortunately.
Yeah, yeah,
But do you
yeah.
have any advice for people that of how they can negotiate or go into those meetings
Well,
properly?
what I would say is, just, first of all, you should realize that they're all they're all just people, you know. And one of the things that I learned, you should always keep this in the back of your head, back of your mind. They have strengths and weaknesses too. Sometimes you just put them on the pedestal and you think they're not real, and they're not. They're more superior. They're better than we are, but they're very good at what they do, and that's why they're in the positions that they're in. But I remember having meetings with um, production companies that were owned by celebrities, and meeting with celebrities. I'm not going to mention any names because that would be rude, but I remember sitting in meetings and going, this person isn't as bright as I think as they appear on the screen. And so don't go in there thinking that you can't, that you can't compete, because if you do your homework, if you're competent and you know your stuff. I mean, I know I'm not the best writer in the world. I know, I have friends who are better writers who may have not been quite as successful, but the, making it as a writer in Hollywood is very different from being a novelist, or even a playwright, because it's there's writing and there's selling. and screenwriting is about pitching, and it's about being in the room and selling ideas as much as it is writing, writing things on the page. So you should do as much of that as you can and just kind of stumble your way in and realize, oh, this is what it is. This is
Hmm.
how it works. I remember one time trying to figure that out and having a conversation with my agent at the time. And I said, oh, I see, I get it. Pitching is selling a feeling. And she goes, yes, that's what it is. So you want to somehow convey the experience of the film when you start, when you pitch an idea.
So you write the script and then you get an agent and then
Well,
you go into
okay,
a meeting with
yeah.
somebody?
What usually happens is the only thing that you can do is write scripts
Hmm.
because you need to have samples of your work. So I say first what I would do is I would decide what I want to really write. Now I did the wrong thing. I was all over the place. I wrote this I wrote my script Captain Starshine, and then the next thing I wrote was like a vampire movie, and it was just like and I remember showing that to someone. They said, "I wish you'd written another comedy." So I realized, oh, okay, I guess I'm a comedy guy. So decide this, and I never really thought about this, but if when you look at what established writers do in Hollywood, even in fiction, they pick a genre and they stay in that. And if they want to turn into another genre, they do it very, very gradually. I mean, if you think I'm going to go see a movie by Stephen King, you're not going to go there for a historical romance. You're going to go there to get scared.
Hmm.
So pick a genre, pick a lane where you want to be, and then do that until you get established doing that. Once you're established, then you can try something else. But it's better to choose, a place where you're comfortable, where your interests lie, where your talents lie, and do that. So you write some spec scripts and you keep doing that, and you shop those around to anyone you can. You talk to producers, you talk to directors, you talk to agents. And, I heard one person say, oh, Hollywood is all about nepotism. Well, it kind of, there's a good side to that in that it's people hire their friends all the time. They
Hmm.
work with the people that they know and they want to work with. And just anyone who breaks in has done that because
Leverage
someone
that. Yeah.
yeah, so someone they know like their work and recommended them to do something. So you start shopping your work around and start building relationships and then people will say, I like this. Have you got something else? And then you pitch ideas and if they like those ideas, then those can turn into jobs. And so and that can turn those can you know those that can get you representation and get you on down the line. And so that's usually what happens. And then if they hire you to write something, then yeah, then you're on the inside and things start working for you, and you just kind of build your circle of people that you work with and go back and work with the same people again and again and again.
Hmm.
So
Well, and it sounds like it's a delicate balance of being confident but respectful for other people, like
exactly.
knowing that they're talented and treating them like a talented person, because I think people want to be treated like that, but also not esteeming them so high that you don't feel like you belong.
Yeah, I think that really nails it. Yeah, and just be nice because you never know you never know if the little development person who you're sitting across the table from is going to be the head of a studio, and they'll remember how you treated them, and if they remember you fondly, oh, come in, sit down, let's talk. That's
I love that. Well, we wanted to dive into a couple of questions about the logistics of your writing,
sure.
and Galaxy Quest. So we'll continue with this discussion when we come back here on Backstage Pass with Phoenix. We have David Howard here with us, and he is the writer of Galaxy Quest. We've been talking about this the whole time. We've talked about how he wrote Galaxy Quest and how it came to be, how it got picked up by DreamWorks, and then just came a big fan favorite. Um, well, I had a couple of questions. It's amazing writing, and it's satirical writing, which I think is not easy to write, but when done well, is often a hit and often does create a fan base. So I guess one of the questions is, do you have any advice on how to write a good satire?
Okay, what I would say first of all is you should really know the world that you're going to satirize. Um, because if you don't, then I think it's going to come across as maybe phony, maybe condescending, maybe superior. And I think you've really got to buy into the world. I really loved Star Trek. I grew up watching it, and so I really understood the world as I went into it. So I'd say yeah, you should really know it. And the other thing is, I think it's important that you don't. The humor is there, but you kind of need to treat it honestly, dramatically, so that there are real stakes in the story. So yeah, you're having some fun with it, with the tropes and the characters and all that. But one of the things that I really like about how that was in my script and also in the shooting script is that um, it's not just a satire. There's a real dramatic line there, and it's important to the characters, what's happening. You look, it's really funny, but the humor is incidental to the storyline. It's there's genuine human investment in the story, and I think that lifts it and makes it more than just kind of a cartoon. Although there are really funny cartoony elements in it. If you look at the how the characters are invested in the story, they're very invested in it, and if for them it's a drama, for them it's not comedy.
Mhm.
So I think that makes for better writing.
So speaking of good writing, is there anything that was changed from your
Oh,
original script when Hollywood picked it up?
yes, yes, yes. It changed quite a bit. And they say that's one of the things that you just need to accept that if you decide to be a screenwriter, you're going to be rewritten. Everybody gets rewritten. David Mamet gets rewritten. Um, and I'm more than happy to share the fact that my script, there was another writer who rewrote my script. That changed my script, Captain Starshine, to Galaxy Quest. His name was Robert Gordon. He did a fantastic job. And so yeah, that happens. And I had one friend who read them both he said, Robert Gordon's is funnier, but yours has more heart. And I'll take that. That's
So were you thinking when you saw the changes, were you like, oh, this is good? Or was there anything that you're like, oh man, they
Oh, well, no, I don't want to pick any. There are a couple little things that I would tweak, but I just think it's just such a wonderful tight script, that the work there, it just sticks together really well. And I I think it's really st solid. And I mean, when I say that, I don't really feel like I'm patting myself on the back because it's so collaborative. There's my stuff there. There's the other writer's stuff there. There are the director's choices. There's the design work. There's the actor's choices, and it just comes together and holds together as a you know uh, complete piece of work that it's I'm just thrilled that it turned out well.
yeah. So what was like one thing that was different from your original script that is
Well, like I mentioned, the fact that my initial story was it focused much more on just the main character, and the uh the conflict was between it was like Kirk fighting Spock, so the evil version of Spock. That was, quite different. But so yeah, that was different.
So what do you think, what elements of your script do you feel like were successful that made this
That
one?
translated. Well, the whole initial concept, the idea of this television actor who has, the best and the worst thing in his life has been this role where, he's played the captain of a starship. It's given him money and freedom and fame, but he's trapped in this world, and suddenly that's another thing that's quite different. His mind, he hated it. He was so over it. Whereas in Galaxy Quest, he's still living that lie, which I think is a great choice. I really do. So that whole scenario, and then there are a lot of plot points along the way and scenes that just are the same. You know, when the aliens show up at the convention, that's the same. They come to his house, that's the same. They take him into space. He doesn't know he's going into space. You know, all that stuff's the same. And then ultimately he has to become the captain, so that's the same as well. So
Yeah. And it seems like it still is character driven. And I think that makes it for a great movie is when you have them character driven, when you have really solid.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So, I guess I'm gonna have to take a break here in just a second, but I did want to ask this question. Do you just start by writing dialogue? Is that kind of how you jump in?
So yeah, sometimes I have an idea and I go, oh, that's an idea that's worth exploring. It well kind of depends on what I'm doing, you know, because I still do write for the theater. You know, I had a little play that was done recently. Then but usually it'll start from an idea, from a story. This is an interesting jumping off place for a story, and then I'll take the main character and put them in a situation that's relevant to that, and just have them start talking to each other. And I really like doing that because then you just let the drama go where it really wants to go, that's interesting and exciting, and let the characters lead me into what the story should be.
Mm, that's beautiful. Thank you for that. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to wrap up with some final thoughts from David, but we'll be back here on Backstage Pass with Phoenix. Wrapping things up with David Howard, Galaxy Quest, screenwriting. Thank you for all of the nuggets of wisdom you've given us. I want to ask the future of all this. So, Galaxy Quest, I had seen something about a TV series. Is that something that is
You
coming?
know,
That's planned?
okay, that's another thing where writers generally don't get a whole lot of information because when you see the difference between, say, playwriting and screenwriting is when you write a play, the playwright is at the top of the pyramid. You know, it's always their work. When you write a screenplay, they buy it and they own it and they do what they want with it, and they can talk to you or they don't have to. So I don't know exactly what's going on with it. I know they wanted to do a series, and they had a script written that Robert Gordon wrote, the second writer on the project, and then Alan Rickman passed away, and that that they stopped. And I know that there's been talk of other people doing it, but who knows? You know, that's the thing about Hollywood is it's things are not happening until they are, and then they are, and then it's very exciting. And then sometimes they stop, and then they're not happening anymore. So
So, there's no definitive answer for us,
no,
dark.
there is not an answer to that at this point that I am aware of.
But you are working on other projects.
Yes, I
So, can you tell
am.
us what you're working on?
Well, one of the okay, two things I want to share. First of all, there's a wrinkle in the Writers Guild contract with the studios, which gives if you sell a script, an original script that you've written for yourself, to a studio, there is something called separated rights, and those separated rights are the rights to do a novelization or a stage piece of a film. And if the studio doesn't exploit those in 5 years, those revert to the writer. So I own the rights to a stage version of Galaxy Quest. What I don't own is the right to use the name Galaxy Quest. But you know, I've written in the theater, and I have some plays that are like in a catalog back, you know, company back in New York. And of course my bio's there. And of course Galaxy Quest is like the first thing they read about. And people kept going back to the guy whose licensing company, you know, the owner of it. And they keep saying, we want to do a musical of Galaxy Quest. So we, for 10 years, my friend, I have a friend who's a composer, and we've been doing a musical version of that. And we had a reading of that in October, and we used some really, really talented Broadway performers, and it's really fun. But we don't have the rights to do it yet, quite. But so that's one thing that's happening.
Ooh.
And the other thing is, I've decided several years, well, I had an idea that I thought should be a novel. So I just finished writing a novel, which was I finished that maybe a year ago. Actually, I'm still tweaking it, but I just finished that up, and I'm talking to a publisher at this point. The novel is called Penumbra, and the log line for that is an angel of death falls in love with a mortal woman. He can't forget her, so they marry, they settle in the suburbs. It's 20 years later, and they have a son in high school who's starting to wonder why he's so different and what his dad does for a living. So
And what inspired that?
actually, that started. Um, I don't know if you've seen the movie Meet Joe Black with Brad Pitt and Anthony Hopkins.
I've
It's a
heard of it.
great.
I don't know if
You
I've.
you should see that's really good. Anyway, it's about death coming down, and um, Anthony Hopkins is this older guy who's about ready to die, and Brad Pitt, as death comes to, he decides he wants to find out what life is about. And I was watching that, and I thought, oh, there would be something. What if it went to the next step? What if he, rather than him, well, I won't spoil the movie, but what if death became so enamored with life that he wanted to set up stakes in mortality, and falling in love with a woman was a great way to get him to do that. So what happens is in a prologue, um, there's a married couple. The husband is has cancer and he's dying, and his wife is out cutting roses in the front yard, and she nicks her finger on a rose, and without noticing it, she goes in the house and she gets blood on the door frame from her finger. And so when death comes to take her husband, he can't get in because there's blood on the door frame. So this negotiation happens between them, and because he has to get her to let him in, and eventually she realizes he's not getting better. Her husband isn't getting better, and allows him to. She allows death to come take her husband, and then he comes back a year later, and he says, "What do you mortals do when you can't?" He says, "I've thought of you every day since then. What do you mortals do?" And that's like the beginning of their courtship. So,
Oh, this is so. Whoa, I'm very intrigued to now. I only have
and
about.
let me just add, if anyone who's listening wants to read the first 10 pages, they can go to my website, davidhowardwriter.co, and there's a link there where the first 10 pages are there for them to read.
davidhowardwriter.co. Is that where they can go when for the full book?
Not yet, not yet, but they can read the first 10 pages and they can send me an email, and I'll give them updates about, when it comes out.
Awesome. Okay, so go jump on there to connect with David. And if is that where they can go if they want to get any more information or connect with you?
Yeah, sure, sure. There's a link for them to email me, and I check it all the time. I'd be happy to, give any information that anyone want to get.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for giving us all this information. This has been truly delightful. I've really appreciated your time and
Sure.
all of your insights. So thank you. And thank you for watching and listening to another episode of Backstage Pass. You can share this with your friends and listen to all the past episodes on YouTube and anywhere you get your podcasts at Backstage Pass with Phoenix. We'll catch you next time.